I had been working as a night security guard at this office building for about 3 months. It was a standard job. Walk the floors every hour, check the cameras, make sure everything was locked up. The building was 12 stories, and I was usually alone from 11 p.m. until 7 a.m. On this particular night, it was around 2 a.m. when I started my rounds on the 8th floor. Everything seemed normal at first. I checked the doors, swept my flashlight across the empty cubicles. That's when I heard it. Footsteps, not mine. They were coming from somewhere down the hallway. I froze. The footsteps were steady, purposeful. Someone was walking toward me. I called out asking if anyone was there. No response. But the footsteps continued. I could hear them getting closer. I immediately radioed down to the front desk where my supervisor was monitoring the cameras. I asked him to check floor 8. He went silent for a moment, then came back on the radio. He said there was nobody on floor 8. Nobody but me. But I could still hear the footsteps. Then they stopped. Complete silence. I stood there in the darkness, my heart pounding, listening. That's when I heard a door slam. Loud. Violent. It came from the conference room at the end of the hall. I rushed back to check the cameras at the security station on that floor. When I rewound the footage, I saw something that made my blood run cold. At exactly 2:03 a.m., the conference room door slowly opened by itself. Nobody pushed it, nobody touched it. It just swung open, and then, moments later, it slammed shut with incredible force. I called my supervisor again. He came up to see the footage himself. We played it back together. He went pale. He told me something he had kept from all the security guards. 2 years ago, a janitor had passed away of a heart attack on the 8th floor. In that exact conference room. I requested a transfer to the day shift the very next morning. But to this day, the night security guards report the same thing. Footsteps on the 8th floor. Always around 2 a.m. And that conference room door, it still opens and closes on its own. I moved into a second-floor apartment in an older building. The rent was reasonable, the place was quiet, and it seemed perfect for a graduate student like me who needed a calm environment to study. For the first week, everything was fine. Then I started hearing the footsteps. Every night at exactly 2:47 a.m., I would hear someone walking in the apartment above me. The footsteps would start in what I assumed was their bedroom, then move slowly across the apartment to what sounded like their living room. Then they would stop. 5 minutes of silence. Then the footsteps would walk back. Same path. Every single night. At first I thought maybe my upstairs neighbor worked an odd shift and had trouble sleeping. But the precision was unsettling. The exact same time. The exact same path. Never any other sounds. No TV. No phone calls. No running water. Just those footsteps. After 2 weeks of this, I decided to introduce myself and politely ask about the noise. I went upstairs and knocked on the door of apartment 3B. No answer. I knocked again. Nothing. I left a friendly note under the door asking them to contact me. The footsteps continued every night. Same time, same pattern. I mentioned it to the building manager. She looked at me with an expression I couldn't quite read. She asked me which apartment I was hearing the noise from. I told her 3B. Directly above me. She went quiet for a moment. Then she told me that apartment 3B had been vacant for 3 months. The previous tenant had moved out suddenly and the apartment hadn't been cleaned or shown yet. She asked if I was sure about what I was hearing. I insisted we go check. She was hesitant but eventually agreed. We went up to 3B. She unlocked the door. The apartment was empty. Completely empty. No furniture, no belongings, nothing. Just bare walls and carpet. But here's what terrified me. When we walked through the apartment, I recognized the layout from the sound of the footsteps. The path I had been hearing every night was from the master bedroom to the living room window. The building manager noticed me staring at the window. She told me the previous tenant's name was David. He had lived alone, kept to himself. One morning, the resident in apartment 2B, my apartment, had called the police because water was leaking through their ceiling. When the police entered apartment 3B, they found David. He had passed away 2 weeks earlier. They found him in his bed. The police report stated he had gotten up at some point, walked to the living room window, and collapsed there. The coroner estimated the time of his passing, 2:47 a.m. The footsteps continued for another month. Same time, same path. Then one night, they just stopped. I never heard them again. I moved out 3 months later, but sometimes I wonder if the next tenant has heard anything, and if they have, whether they'll be brave enough to investigate. These were the true scary stories submitted by viewers. If you have your own story to share, leave it in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and remember to stay safe out there.